By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Yeah.
3:30. Hallelujah. Blessed be the Most High, King of the universe, Yehudah Zebaot. Thanking the Most High God for another Shabbat day. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We're here today once again. CHOKMAH YAH to everyone. Well, we're still in the midst of the Chag. By the time you were hearing this, it will be the final day of or it will be the end of the Chag. So at this time, we're still during the festive season, and early Shabbat Shalom to everyone out there, giving all honor and praises to the Most High God, King of the universe, Creator of heaven and earth. Giving due respect to the leader of our congregation, even my brother, Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Yisrael, praying that the Most High God be with him and his family, his household, that the Most High God will continue to bless him, bless his family. May the Most High God bless each and every one of you, and that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to protect us all. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Don't forget a like. Like doesn't cost you anything, so just press that like button, subscribe to the channel. So at this time, we will move straight ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
I'd like to give praises to the Supreme China Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respects the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Yisrael, to the host, Chief Uziel, to the Princess Chief, Connie, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors to the channel. I greet you all and tell my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, CHOKMAH YAH, and also, early Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to also start off with Adonai Sabtai Takufia Giti Ateka, O Lord, to my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. I'll be covering the actual Torah portion during this particular time, which is for the intermediate days when Shabbat happens to be on the intermediate days of Sukkot, which will come from the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, the 18th verse, to the 39th chapter, 16th verse. Also, I'd like to address a request that's made in the comments, and I think I wrote it's the email down was at MR period B5862, whoever that is, and it was about in reference to a video, as requesting a video about why women shouldn't wear pants, and I gave a talk on it from when I covered the area of Deuteronomy 25th chapter, 22nd chapter, 5th verse, and I explained what that verse meant, and I also explained that every congregation have their own bylaws and rulings for how they have a dress code as well. But and I said, get to your various leaders and teachers if you had any further questions about that. So my thing was just elaborate and expound exactly what the verbiage just mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy concerning that particular chapter and verse, and also show that, and I did explain at that time, there's only written in that one spot in the Tanakh, and every congregation have a dress code. It might be a dress code where on Shabbat everybody wear white, or a certain season everybody wear white. in a certain season, everybody might wear black or brown or blue. So any the congregations could come up with their own bylaws for us a dress code and stuff like that because they function within a different parameter. Just like you had judges of every tribe, and they was the jurisdiction for that particular tribe within their gates. So, and you got judges confined to time zones. The judges that should be in your days. So when when it comes to issues like that, I'm just here to expound as truthfully, according to my knowledge as I can about certain subjects. So if you have any other controversies and stuff like that or issues with that, bring it to the various congregation that you attend, and get other viewpoints. Because I'm just here to share viewpoints, not necessarily to change your viewpoint, just give you another point of view. So that being said, we're in a particular time of Sukkot, which is supposed to be a time of joy, and it mentioned joy twice within it. And joy is a little different than fun. A lot of times people think I'm having fun. Is that joy? But you could have just joy just sitting and thinking about a certain situation, appreciating a certain situation, as well as being active in a situation. Whereas fun is only active, and so when you think about, children having fun, that, they running, they're being active, but the time that they actually have an enjoyment something like that, then it's not only just something you're being active in, but also a thing that you actually can contemplate, and just say, I feel good about that. I really enjoy that, and it's so it's a big difference in that area there. And what is one of the strange things is that you're told at this time of year, and usually the first um, positive command after Yom Kippur is to build a sukkah, a booth. And, and the word sukkah itself, itself, it means, it's used as an interpretation of booth, but more so means a shelter. That's what it really is, So, sukkah shalom, a shelter of peace. So when you think about a sukkah itself, the first definition, which is mostly widely used, is those booths, those tents. That's referred to as a sukkah. And yet, when we say, well, how can you enjoy a hut at the most close to the most inclement time of the year? It's just the opposite season of Pesach, because Pesach is a spring, but it still be almost like the beginning of fall, so to speak, except there's certain things we activating different. So now you're getting coming, into the fall season, getting close to the winter season, and also, that's when you got to leave your real secure spot. And you say just having branches of tree limbs and stuff like that, boughs of goodly trees over the top over something of a dwelling spot, and that's supposed to be enjoyment. How could, and it's temporary, it's not permanent. And you say you're supposed to really enjoy a situation like that, and also remind you that you departed Egypt, and God caused us to dwell in booths. So it's always a controversy, even amongst the sages. One would say it's the huts itself, and the other one would say it was that's the clouds of glory that hover over our heads. And I would, go along with that being a more elevated meaning, for us, symbolism and in relationship, because how much trees that we found wandering in the wilderness to make a hut, And what Balaam saw was basically tents. So, it's I always implore you to discuss those things with your various leaders and teachers in that area there. But the first time you read about a sukkah, you read about it during the time of Yaakov, when Yaakov built, a place, it had a place called Sukkot, and that's the first time that term is actually used there. And they have certain rulings about how a sukkah should be, made according to rabbinic standards. I'm not saying according to rabbinic standards, those that follow certain rabbinic ruling. The guy at least have 3 sides at the minimum. Sometimes some say 2.5 sides, depends. And then it got to have a scotch, which is like a top, a roofing, and the roofing got to be with branches. And then and use the word pretty es kada, by the fruit of trees that are beautiful. All right, and you say, well, okay, it don't tell you exactly what is the fruit is in the Tanakh. We don't find out what trees they might consider really that beautiful with the most beautiful fruits, because a lot of times some apple trees look good, a lot of times some lemon trees look good, sometimes some orange trees look good, so they say, well, what is that? So they have to be based on a tradition that people did and understood at that time, because in the Tanakh, it don't make it very, very clear. And when it talks about, Peri es Hadar, which is, the fruit of a tree that is beautiful. And so I just want to elaborate on a few of those things before I go into the particular things about the season and in reference to that. So normally today, traditionally they have what they call the ethro, which is a citrus fruit, look like a lemon. It's part of the citrus family anyway, but it's unique in the way it grows, and that's one of the main things. But before I go to that, the roof itself, you got to overlay it with branches, can't be tacked down, and you got to be able to see the sky in the daytime and stars at night. So you have branches over it for a little bit of a shade, but it got to be enough light to come in where you could look straight out the sides, the stars, or if it rained, rain could actually enter, within the booth itself. So that shows a divine trust in the Creator in that area there, that you leave your house, your permanent dwelling, and go to a temporary dwelling in that particular season. And was the actual booths that's actually used in huts is really when the farmers actually harvest. They had these little huts made in their fields so that they could be close to where they harvest, so they could report to work, on their fields a lot quicker instead of going back to the house. Then they take a break, do everything they're doing in their booth, and they might stack some of their stuff within the booth, and then they go back out, and continue harvesting until they finish the harvest season. So, and being we so far removed for everybody being an agrarian part of an agrarian society, most people don't consider farming. That's not really what they into these days. Most of us in the modern times, but yet we all depend on the land itself for produce. So they sometimes you might have a solid booth. And according to rabbinic literature, they have certain criteria for what makes a booth, what they consider, permissible, from rabbinic area. Now, we don't find it from Torah itself. We only find it pretty much from a rabbinic area. And now let's deal with the 4 species, which you only read about 4 species mentioned more so in the prophecy after the Babylonian period, but you don't read about it at within in the actual Tanakh itself, in the Chumash itself. I mean, I should say the Chumash, when we read about the Sukkot. They only mention two of the species. We know about the palm, and we know about a fruit that's undefined. We know, but we can read about you know, I think the willow or the brook or something like that in the middle, or the myrtle, one of the two. But those are things we have. We have the ethro, which is the fruit, and when you have a lulav just means a palm tree. And that's part of it. You know, that's it's actually the four species put together, but but they actually the palm tree being the most dominant species on it, they were called, referred to that as, the lulav. So you have an ethro, you have a part of a palm tree, you have willows or broken, you have a myrtle, and each of them have different properties itself. And they have this thing where you might see, and you see a lot of people making a lot of finances in different communities off of buying a particular lulav. So you see a lot of people be walking with those, the little boxes. Before that's a more modern way they package it now with the lulav. They have an inspection. But let me just speak about the ethro just a little bit. For the ethro that's in the box, which looks like a lemon. They choose that from a tradition, and they have a tradition on which I'm not going to go into about, where they got it while it was, during Moses' time, and Moses gave that particular law out. But they have three major places that they talk about getting that particular fruit from. First place, ironically, supposed to be, Italy, a part of southern part of Italy. That's the first place, which is, one of the strange things that, that's why I'm not going to go into the, some of the rabbinic comments they have on that. But the first spot is they say that supposed to be, especially with the Hasidic movement and most of the Kabbalah guys, they want their ethro coming from Italy, southern part of Italy. It's strange. And then the next one's Morocco, and of course the Holy Land itself. So you figure, why was it that they focus more on Italy? And that you just have to do your research on that. I'm not to elaborate on everything. I just want to bring out some certain traditions. And that the ethro itself is a unique fruit. It happens to go through all four seasons. That actual lemon-looking fruit, citron fruit, actually go through all seasons. And what is unique about it is that the pit itself is beneath the actual fruit itself, and it has a different type of unique type of shape, within it. And then also it has the lines, the wavy lines that goes around it, like waves from people's hair, but it goes vertical. The lines go on it vertical. And what else is unique is that it's one of the only fruits that go through all four seasons. So they look at that as a unique fruit itself because it goes through all four seasons, and it's the only fruit tree. This is some of the things that's, truth, not tradition. This is actually what it is. It's the only fruit tree that actually has new fruit and old fruit and in between fruit that's developed on the same tree. So that's something that's really something that really consider why they choose that one. They say, well, you got the young, they got the old, and you got the the very, very mature, on the same tree. And most fruits have a season that they develop, and you usually don't find all a fully developed fruit on the tree with the very, very young or in it like that. Usually they all ripen the same time. They're all pretty much rotten out the same time. And then what makes it different from like a lemon and other citron fruits is that most of the other fruits, the inside, which most people don't cut into, is actually the seeds go around, where the etrog itself, the seeds go vertical within the fruit. So if you ever cut open an etrog, which most people don't do until after the seeds anyway, if you look at the seeds, it goes straight up and down along with the fruit itself. And each one symbolically, each one of those species, the 4 species that I mentioned, represent different parts of the human body. So this is for those that actually, see it, and then when they wave it, they wave it for those that follow tradition, not necessarily. You might find out what to do, because you don't find in the scriptures what to do when you get the 4 species together, other than you building a booth, and what the booth should be had. But you don't see when you get them all together what you do. So it had to be a tradition outside when you see that people during this particular season with these long little branches of things in one hand, and some of them have elaborate cases today. Some of them might spend anywhere from $25 to $1,000 something dollars for that particular little thing for that particular season. And an ethro, depends on where it grows. It's not exactly the same exact shape or the same exact shade of color. So we think about it just being yellow, but you have some that might be green. So it's not the same exact color. Just like apples grown in different parts of the world might grow a little different, or watermelons grown in different parts of the world might grow a little different. Well, the ethro itself is actually, has different subtle shapes, but they all have the same quality, and they all be on the tree the same way, in that sense. So hence, that's one of the areas about the fruit they choose in reference to that. So, and the 4 species they look at and have a symbolic meaning for the ethro representing the heart, the the lulav representing with the palm branch, which represent the spine, and then the willow, the willows represent the lips, and then the myrtle, the eyes. So when we look at all the 4 species, they also have other meanings they attribute to that, which is that they have the, some people with learning and good deeds that would be more represented by, the actual ethro itself. All right. Then you got some people that have, learning, but no good deeds. And then you have people that have deeds, but no learning. And you have some people that don't have either. And then you got some that has, smell and taste. Some just has, a taste, no smell. Some just has, a taste, no smell. And some just have a smell, but no tasting, and some don't have neither. So that's also represent a community, in that sense. The prayers, everybody in the community that comes together. They also have different analogies that they represent. But the first time you read about, they allude to a type of Sukkot type of thing from Abraham's time. They have a comment on that. And you don't find the word Sukkah. It's just saying about when the 3 angels appeared before Abraham's tent, he had them sit, under the shade of the tree. Now that we read when in Wa'era that the Creator appeared from, in the oak of Mamre, and that was a pretty big tree, and then they had the 3 strangers standing at the door, the tent at the door, in the heat of the day, and they offered them to sit under the shade of a tree. Well, rabbinically, and I'm just sharing these things out, I know, you have your various customs from various congregations, but it's good to know so they can have, conversation in the booth as well. Okay, if you're going to dwell in the booth, you're going to spend some time in it, you might want to discuss certain things about why is this and why is that. So that's why I'm sharing some of these elements here with people that might go through, especially in the New York area, where you might find booths almost everywhere, all different kind of genres of booth, So and you might want to, be able to contribute to a conversation in reference to those areas. But Abraham had them set under the shade of the tree, the oak tree. So now, as I said before, the booth, that if you have a scotch, which is the roofing of a booth, halachically, if you go by rabbinic tradition, that it's supposed to be, you can have some leaves there. You have branches over at the top. That's not nailed down, but it got to be visible where you can see the sky. So Abraham thing, even though it was good for him and for his guests to be under the shade and not let the sun beam down, you read in the book of Jonah that, that God put a gorge over his head and then finally let the worm eat it up in the morning, and then the sun beamed down his head. That's another element to discuss, which I'm not going into myself at this time. But those, if you had a booth and you put it inside of a building, technically, amongst halakhic tradition, it wouldn't be considered, official booth. If you're looking up at the ceiling in there, because it got to be out of the sky into the elements. You're exposing yourself to the elements, and it shows a sense of trust. All right. So you also have another element that I had marked down, in reference to it represent, also the fruits can represent some of the matriarchs, because we don't talk about the matriarchs that much in reference to those particular elements, and when you talk about a beautiful tree, it's supposed to, represent Sarah, who was beautiful at an old age, and then think about the date palm itself, you look more to Rivka, which is a fruit tree that can have fruit and thorns in it, the date palm's got to have something like a sharp little leaves or branches in there. So she had a good son and not so good of a son. So that's what they use symbolically, rabbinically, to represent Rivka. Then when it comes to Leah herself, she, the leaves of thick trees, they refer to that, as the myrtle, and they looked at it as Leah, because Leah had the most children out of all the matriarchs. She had the most children, in this sense. And the myrtle branch has more leaves on it than the other one, which is the willow of the brook. And the willow of the brook, the opera, as they refer to it, as that they look at that as representing Raquel, Raquel, and because the willow dies quicker than any other plant, any other tree plant, and she died before her sister. So they use that. They use a lot of analogy to represent different, characters and present certain messages within concerning that, concerning those areas there. All right, but another thing I like to bring up before I go into the portion is that normally during this particular season, that just to change gears just a little bit, that we've been reading the last Sidra Bazot Habraka, and and that's when they normally, but they never read it on the Shabbat itself, and they happen to read it during during the various times that they bring out the Torah, mostly during the weekdays, Bazot Habraka. So and the question always arises, how come we don't read Bazot Habraka on the Shabbat? And it's a long explanation, but I'm gonna make it very brief, and then leave you to do your own research. All right. The brief explanation is that when they decide which books or portions they're gonna read during the year on Shabbat, they wanted to begin the Shabbat after Simchat Torah with Bereshit, the very first Shabbat with Bereshit. And most of the times during Sukkot, it might come on a Shabbat, or a Shabbat be in between. So you don't cover the regular, sidra for that particular week on that Shabbat. You have other things that be dominating. So they, in Jerusalem, and this is for those that might want to do some research on it. In Jerusalem, because we had the school people that's in Jerusalem and people that's in Babylon, they had a triennial cycle. And I explained about a triennial cycle before. During a triennial cycle, it would take 3 years to finish from Genesis to Deuteronomy. That's in a triennial cycle. The 3 years would be involved. Where in Babylon, they took a year to finish, the CHOKMAH, from Genesis to Deuteronomy. So, and I explained also about conservatives that took a combination of both. They would take 3 years to finish the whole CHOKMAH, but they always pick up a different portion of the Sidra along with the people that deal with the annual yearly portion. So in other words, if they do Genesis, if it hadn't to be our first year doing Genesis, then they will start in Genesis 1, but they're going to stop a lot sooner, and they're not continue. Then the following week, when Noah come up, they'll start in Noah 1, but they'll stop early. So they break it up in 3 years. So in 3 years period, they'll finish it like that. So they took a combination of both. The people of Babylon didn't want that to interfere, with that, so they set the blessings during the week. And then, here we got, the dominate, we find out what dominates on the calendars, what dominates today, about certain traditions. So I just wanted to share those different things out. But to speak on Zurishaddai in a little bit, the opening part of Zurishaddai, I just want to read the 33rd chapter of Deuteronomy, which is just the opening part of it. And it says, "And this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death." All right. So now I just want to read that one verse. When we think of Zurishaddai, we talk about the tribe of Shimon is not mentioned. Some things don't sound too good for different people, like Reuben and, other elements that are going on. So it seems almost, just a similar thing to Yaakov, sharing certain blessings for the children of Israel. But what most people I want to bring out that they like for them to focus on is that when you talk about, it said, this is the blessing, not these are the blessings. This is the blessing for all Israel, not just for necessarily one tribe. It said we are connected. We are, a part of the whole. We're not just separate. So when Moses said, this is the blessing that he blessed Israel, and that means that, okay, he might send out this particular tribe over here for a particular unique thing. He might send this tribe out here for another unique thing. But they are part of Israel. So whether I got my money in the safe in the house, or I got it in my pocket in the house, or I got it in the drawer in the house, the money is in the house for the house. And so therefore, I still benefit. It just happened to be in a different location. So if you would, and look at it, in that frame of mind. And also as it ends, we only find out at the end of Deuteronomy that Moses is called a prophet. We've been calling him a prophet from the day of time. We say Moses the first prophet, but he's never called a prophet in the book until he's gone. That's the first time he's ever mentioned as a prophet, of God. There never risen was a prophet like unto Moses. We read Aaron being called a prophet and being Moses' prophet. So we learn these different things there. So those are some areas there. And I just want to read a part of the season that we're in, and let you know how big the season is, and what it entails. So I'm just going to go just a little bit, a few things in Kings, and before I go into Ezekiel. So the first thing in Kings, when I look at it, is the second verse, which is read as part of an intermediate day, afterwards. Afterwards, because they used the first day they used Zechariah, then they might do the next reading, those that do in the Galut, which is in diaspora, a different reading for the next day. But normally, and I just want to make it clear too, the Holy Convocation is on the first day of the 15th of the month of Sukkot, and then the next Holy Convocation officially is Shemini Atzeret, which is after the Sukkot, which brings a conclusion of that season. So I just want to make sure I bring those things out, now. But those is in dispersed outside of Israel. They do the first 2 days, and then they do an extra day, which they call Simcha, Torah. They have Simcha Torah and everything, so they have an extra day that they observe. But historically, like I said, it was a reason why they had the extra day originally. So I just want to read in the book of Kings just a little bit, just a few verses in here. It said in 8 Kings, 2nd chapter, 1 Kings, 8th chapter, 2nd verse. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast of the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. Which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark, and they brought up the ark of the Lord, and the tent of meeting, and all the holy vessels that were in the tent. Even these did the priests and the Levites bring up, and King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel that were assembled unto him were with them before the ark, sacrificing, sheep, oxen, that could not be told nor numbered for multitude. And the priest brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord unto his place, and to the sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread forth their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubims covered the ark, and the stays thereof above. I just want to read that particular portion here. And then in the last part, I might as well finish this part, the 9th verse. And there was nothing in the ark save the 2 tables of stone, which Moses put there at Horeb, when the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. All right, and we're going to stop. We stop there. All right, so that's all I want to read from that particular portion there. One of the things I find that's interesting is that the tablets, which most times they read and they read over about them, Moses and the sin of the golden calf and pleading for God's forgiveness, that we find that the tabernacle that was made in the wilderness was God's idea. That's number one, which I always bring about. And the tabernacle was never said to be, temporary. It was actually, built by the orders of the Creator itself. So it was never supposed to be temporary. It itself, wind up being temporary, seemed like, but it was never meant to be temporary itself. And then, I'll be open to other discussions in reference to that in the future. The Ark of the Covenant, the actual the actual Aron Kodesh, the actual chest, as you would say, the box that was made, that was supposed to be a permanent residence for those tablets. So mind you, Sukkot, we leave our permanent house and go to a temporary dwelling. Yet the tablets that Moses had carved out, the second part that God wrote upon, from the very beginning, always supposed to have a permanent dwelling, because it's a contract, it's a covenant, and a covenant cannot have a temporary spot. In life, coming from the Creator, You know, I mean, it's supposed to be something that's secure forever. And let you know only the tablets was there. Some say that the broken tablets also that Moses broke. That's another story. But I want to focus on this area here. So now the ark itself is a permanent container for those loopholes, those stones, those tablet stones that God wrote on. That's permanent. Never supposed to be exchanged. You can find out it left and was in the hands of the Philistines. Then you figure, why didn't the Philistines take that out? you know, I got to wonder. They had it for a few years, for a little while in the hands of the Philistines, and they never took those things out, but yet they put stuff in, and you wonder how they wind up handling the ark like that. So but that's another story to consider. And yet, out of all those centuries, because we read that the tabernacle was stood for 480 years, it still maintained that. Now we don't read about the rod. We don't read about the that manna. The manna for that was picked up. The omer that was supposed to be stored. We don't read about all that. That's a whole nother story. But the most important message and story was the covenant was still alive. That was the most important thing, that the covenant between God and Israel is still alive. And it was put in something that was permanent, that was never, ever retaken. Though I know about all these different mysteries and legends and stuff that they got, in reference to that. But as far as we read on record, permanency, it never was ever retaken. And what was the temple itself that Solomon built and dedicated was a place for God's name to dwell. And he made it clear that, if the heavens of the heavens of the heavens cannot contain you, how much more this house? So Solomon made it clear when he built this house that it's not a house where God actually dwelled in. It was his place, the place is named there. And that's why we read in the early parts of the book that says you should go to the place where God chose to have his name place. Wherever that place was, where his name would be placed. So when Solomon built the temple itself, it became a permanent place where God's name was supposed to be dwelling there. Just his name, not him himself. And so that was the permanency of that, which is a big difference, because the temple is, and Solomon thought the temple was going to be permanent, but it wasn't. But the place itself, it became permanent, because that's a place God chose. Not Solomon, but that's the place God chose. And then when he dedicated, and he did twice. He extended Sukkot. So instead of the regular 8 7 days plus he had 14 days dedicated plus the 8th day itself, and then to give you the time when they left, they returned back after the observance. So then you say, well, what happened to Yom Kippur and all that time, and how did they deal with Yom Teruah during that particular time? Those things you got to think about with the celebratory thing, that there was more about a celebratory mode, of joy in reference to this event. And a lot of times when we come back, in the latter days that we talk about, it's talking about observing the Feast of Tabernacles in the book of Zechariah, which was part of the Torah that they read earlier. But I'm just going to read just a little bit of Ezekiel to save some time. I know I won't be able to cover a lot of stuff. I'm sure I might have a few questions in reference to what I said. So we're going to go into the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, and just go through a little bit of that before we move on. All right. If you got it, Chief, we could start.
Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 1. It reads, verse 18. It reads, let me make sure I'm in the right chapter. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 18. Hallelujah. It reads, and it shall come to pass in that day when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith Adonai Yehudah, that my fury shall rise up in my nostrils. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the ground and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will, all right.
Territory, you know. Now you say, wow, you know, I mean, when judgment is coming against another people, and you say, well, nobody like a fight going on in their house, you know. And since most people don't like the fight going on in the house because it creates nothing but, you know, I mean, you know, you got damage here, you got damage over there, so nobody want, you know, I mean, you know, chaos going on in their particular house. But the Creator bringing them there for a particular purpose, and I mean, and you say, well, out of all the places in the world, one of the things that even this country that you know we I you know and living in now in America, they only had two wars on their soil pretty much, you know, and you know, you figure with the Revolutionary War, and I wouldn't call the war with the French and you know, too much of a war there, you know, in Louisiana, when that was a whole nother issue, and the Civil War. And I wouldn't call the Mexican War part of that either, with, you know, with Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders. So when we talk about America, just had two wars on its soil, you know, and that's, you know, Revolutionary War and the Civil War. And no people like war in their backyard. No people like that. So when we think about the latter days, why would God bring all this chaos in our land at that time? And then where we are, where are we at this particular time? So these are things that, you know, you got to think about and consider. You know, where are the people? And we know that everybody didn't go to Babylon, and we know everybody wasn't completely taken out the land as a whole. Even when we just read about Jonah, he said, when I left my own country, you know, I thought the northern kingdom, all them guys supposed to been taken to Assyria. So how are you still hanging around somewhere? You know, so these are some of the things that, you know, when we look at, you got to consider. All right. So and it's going to be a fighting thing, but it's for us to witness a type of salvation going for us. All right, continue. Come on in.
It reads, verse 21. And I'll call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith Jehovah God. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will cause to rain upon him, and upon his bands, and upon the many peoples that are with him, an overflowing shower of great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I'll make myself known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yehovah.
You know, here you're supposed to be a Confederate. Now, how are you going to have a fallout? Now, we're seeing something similar, not very little, but similar, you know, during pretty much, you know, World War II. You know what I mean? When you had the Allies and the Axis powers, you know, fighting, and then some of the Axis power was actually turning on themselves, you know, in itself, because, you know, Russia was, you know, down with Germany for a half a moment. You know, Italy, you know, I mean, was, you know, with Mussolini was down with Germany and everything like that. You know, they had some things going on with them. So, you know, and then they really didn't trust Japan, but they needed Japan. so you know, you're gonna find, and it's not too long after, you know, Russia and Japan, had their situation. That's how we wound up with Alaska, you know. So it wasn't that many years prior to that, you know, that Japan had beat up on Russia. So it's and Hitler wanted Japan actually to go and attack Russia, while he handled his other business. So imagine a war where everybody come together to fight, and then we fighting with each other in someplace else. And God bring you there and say, this is where the match going to be. And I'm going to cause drama. And then and not only that, you got the elements fighting against you as well as the sword. Because so can you imagine? The elements is fighting against you and you fighting yourself to survive. All right. But what it says here, continue. 39.
Chapter 39, it reads, And thou, son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, Thus saith Adonai Yehudah, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee about and lead thee on, and will cause thee to come up from the uttermost parts of the north, and I'll bring thee upon the mountains of Yisrael, and I'll smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand.
Fight with bows and arrows anymore today. But you know, most people, even if we're talking about rifles and stuff like that, most people, they hold it with their left because they're right-handed, and they squeeze the trigger with their left. I mean, the right hand, excuse me. They hold the barrel with the right, left hand, and squeeze with their right finger. So I mean, you can say, well, they ain't shooting a bow and arrow, so but did that make any sense? But for the most part, a majority of the military guys, even if a guy's left-handed, most times you figure they cross them over to train them sometime to shoot, a certain way in the military. and so that, you could think, okay, the arrows, and they ain't shooting that no more. They ain't shooting that. They don't have the bow. But the weapons that they have today, that will stand for today. And later on, I'm going to tell you about this prophecy was done already. This prophecy was mentioned, during Ezekiel time. It's mentioned a little bit later on in Zechariah time. So when the time comes, they're going to say, didn't you hear about that? Didn't you know about that? Didn't you know this was going to go down like that? So even though, we pray for the peace of the land, over there, so it's be still standing, there's going to be some trauma, some real drama going on in the Middle East, in that land, until God get it to where he have his people there and everything started to move at his time, not our time, but his time. So this was going to go down no matter, you stop the fight. You figure, how is it, that a land such as Israel in the Middle East, all right, in that area there, have peace, war, peace, war, peace, war, peace, war. From the upside, and it ain't just started, with the, say the Zionist movement and all that kind of stuff. You figure during the Crusades, peace, war, Islam got it, Christians got it, Islam got it, Christians got it, then, Genghis Khan was trying to get a piece of it, at one time. So, not Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan, the Mongols was headed towards that area. So, why is it that that's the most fought over place, and there's so much chaos going on, and yet it became, and it's a sacred place to most people of the major great religions. So this is something that, to consider. All right, continue.
It reads, verse 4, Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the peoples that are with thee, I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. Thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith Adonai Yehudah. I will send a fire on Magog and on them that dwell safely in the isles, and they shall know that I am Yehudah. And my holy name will I make known in the midst of my people Yisrael, neither will I suffer my holy name to be profaned any more. And the nations shall know that I am Yehudah, the Holy One of Yisrael.
And then, that, when you're talking about in the 6th verse, and I will send a fire on my God and on them that dwell safely in the isles. That means but I'm going to send drama over there where you at. Because some people say, well, I'm not at the fight. So you ain't at the fight, but your people is causing the problem. So I'm going to deal with the people that's causing the problem right there in that spot. And I'm going to deal with the people that didn't even move from their spot. So that's going to be something to see if we happen to live by it. And it's going to be terrifying, not only for those that is being saved, but some of the drama that hit. Sometimes, you could look at a certain accident. And when you look at a certain accident, say a car accident, and an individual is so mangled in the car, and everything like that, you feel it, you feel, if you're human, you feel that, and you say, man, that was nasty, whatever such happened to him, and yet you ain't the one that, got hit. It's the individual. And most times the individual may not even survive it. You can see, any kind of chaos or trauma. If you've ever seen anybody that's stabbed up or something like that there, cut up real bad, and you see, certain things hanging out, out their body, you would say, wow, that look horrible, make you cringe. If you're human, got some human, it make you cringe, but it ain't happening to you. But just seeing it to another human being is traumatic. And this is the kind of thing that God's saying that he's doing for his name's sake. All right. Continue. 8th verse.
Verse 8, it reads, Behold, it cometh, and it shall be done, saith Adonai Yehudah. This is the day whereof I have spoken. And they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth, and shall make fires of the weapons, and use them as fuel, both the shields and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows, and the handstaves, and the spears, and they shall make fires on them 7 years, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any out of the forest, for they shall make fires of the weapons, and they shall spoil those that spoil them, and rob those that rob them, saith Adonai Yehudah.
Finish this out. Before we finish out, can you imagine that this last time, before we're talking about, in that day, in the name of the Lord would be one, and his name was one, and it'd be peace. It got to be a lot of drama. Before you do construction, you do demolition. That's what you do. You clear things out before you build things up. And the demolition work don't never look too good. It don't never look too good at all. But here it is that when we look at what's going to happen, we talking about the green thumb effect. The same thing that we're going to use it for a more positive thing. That means that the trees are going to get a chance to grow, that we're going to be self-sufficient. We talk about these different oil shortage and all this here kind of stuff, and this is already taken care of in the last days. And it say, for how many years? 7 years, that's a great amount of time, that we using stuff that they brought to fight and destroy, as something positive. We took something that was negative and made it positive. And then we're not, it's not the end yet. Going to the end of this here.
It reads, verse 11, And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place fit for burial in Israel, the valley of them that pass through on the east of the sea, and it shall stop them that pass through. And they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Ham Gog. 7 months shall the house of Yisrael be buried in them, that they may cleanse the land. Yea, all the people of the land shall bury them, and they shall be to them a renown. In the day that I shall be glorified, saith Adonai Yehudah, and they shall set apart men of continual employment that shall pass through the land to bury with them, that pass through those that remain upon the face of the land to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search. And when they that pass through shall pass through the land, and any seeth a man's bone, then shall he set up a sign by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Ham Gog. And Hamonah shall also be the name of a city. Thus shall they cleanse the land. Hallelujah.
One of the things is this that we look at is that for 7 months at the end, and it says after the end of 7 months shall they search. All right, we already into a 7th month. Now we don't know exactly what time all this is going to take place. They have a lot of rabbinic stuff that they talk about when certain things are supposed to take place. But at the end of 7 months, all this going on, that we're going to go ahead and give him. But God, though he do the drama, you notice the dignity he gives after some of them been eaten up. There's going to still be some things that even the carrions, the vultures, the scavengers, they're going to leave, behind. And it's our job to give them a decent burial. Ain't that something in the land? Not burn them up, not throw them out. Though fire came down and consumed them, all kind of stuff is going on, like a nuclear thing, whatever. If you try to imagine what happens to these things when God bring the drama, because you talk about fire and hailstone and all kinds of stuff. So they're getting banged up with boulders of ice and getting burnt and all that kind of stuff and being eaten up. And yet, after all this drama, the Creator extends a decent burial for them, and it said it's our job to bury them decently within the land. Now, most of us can't even get a plot in the land today. Most of us can't afford to even get a plot. Most of us can't say that that's my last, will that I like to be buried, anywhere within the land. Much more talking about Jerusalem, but I say I like to be buried, in the land, my ancestors. Most of us, will be buried. Fortunately, we know where we at. So the thing is that God doing all this for Israel, and it's like what Israel need to do for the Creator that we got to consider. And the thing is that it shows that the covenant is still alive between us and Israel. One of the things about this particular season is that we're making a reflection, on what we did last year, and then how we move from the sounding of the shofar at the end of Yom Kippur until this particular point in time now. Did I continue my arguments? Did I continue my fights? Did I continue my gripes? Or did I improve and moved on and said, look, I didn't get anything so far. I mean, it's been, if we wait to the end of the month, you can say, and say I didn't cause a problem with anybody. I'd have made it 2 weeks without an issue. I made it 2 weeks without an issue. From Yom Kippur, pretty much, and about a little bit more. So that's one of the things that we got to focus on, is that a resolution takes, a revolution. A resolution takes revolution makes a change. You got to be active in it. It's not just the word things. We talk about, the Creator, giving us, a party, And then one of the things is that when we talk about, and I mentioned about Abinu Malkeinu, Father our King, when we talk about partners, one thing I like to leave before I, get off this particular segment is that when we look for pardon, and we look for pardon from the Creator for our sins, do we say, do justice still exist? Because if God pardoned your sin, didn't we commit an atrocity for it to be a sin? And if an atrocity was committed for it to be a sin, then Sadet Teodof, justice thou pursue. So now the justice was canceled out because God permitted us to say, okay, I'm gonna let that one go. I'm gonna pardon you. As Moses asked, and so I'm gonna pardon, and do according to your words, pardon them according to your words. But he said, I'm in no wise let the guilty go free. So if he said, I no wise let the guilty go free, then we got to be really thankful and consider that if we want God to pardon us, we want him to say, look here, don't deal with us according to justice. And yet we want justice, but we don't want it on us at this time that we went through Yom Kippur. Because he said, I can't afford to pay that. I can't afford to pay that at the time. So when you think about what we want and what we ask on that day, and we pour out, our heart and soul on that day for God to, to pardon us and forgive us for his name's sake and everything like that, then we saying, don't deal with us according to justice at this time. And yet we want a just world. So, and we talk about justice in the world. And that should keep everybody humble as we go through the seasons. And so we leave our prestigious permanent dwellings and give a humble life. And Sukkot is one of the few things that you could do with your entire body. Or, some laws, you do, by giving, money here, some laws you might, you might, do, with your hands and stuff like that. But with your entire body at one time that you follow in the will of God is to dwell in a particular location. That's one law and one of the few laws that you do with your entire body. And it shows that, you trusting in the Creator, that you under the shelter of his peace. And that's one of the prayers, they mostly say, Kashibeno, and Sukkot Shalom, So when you think about that, that we want to be able to dwell in the shelter of peace, even after the Sukkah is there and is taken down, you still want to be under the clouds of the shelter of the Most High God. So I hope we got some of what I said. Any mistakes been my own. I've been a little lengthy, but this the season that, we try to cover those things within those particular seasons. And any question, any mistakes been my own, and now don't necessarily be the views of the channel I'm on, and the D.C.B channel. So anytime you have issues with something I say, just direct it to me in the chats or the comment, because sometimes I might not reflect the views that on the channel I'm on. So with that, I say Shalom Aleichem and thank you for listening. And everybody enjoy the rest of the card.
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. May the Most High God bless you. May the Most High God bless each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom.
Yeah, sure.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, his laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, his laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers.